Morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's joined so far. This webinar will start in the next 2 minutes. We're just waiting for a few more people to join. Thank you. So hello everyone, and a warm welcome to this series of webinars that focuses on delivering and updating you on the new features and functionality that will be available to you and your organization in Oracle's latest release 20D. In this webinar, we're going to be talking specifically around benefits, compensation, and workforce management. My name is Chris Gomez, and I'm an account director here at Evosys. And my focus is on demonstrating the value that our next generation managed service, as well as some of the other innovative Evosys technologies, has on achieving maximum business value on your Oracle Cloud application. As we know, Oracle provide quarterly updates that are designed to continually drive operational excellence and enhance the user experience. Today, I'm your host for this webinar, where I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague, Vishnupriya Narasimhan, who works in our ERP Centre of Excellence team, and will be taking us through the workforce management, benefits and compensation updates in 20D. So Priya has over 10 years experience across the Oracle HCM modules and is currently leading the entire managed services for HCM. Priya will be taking you through the hot topics and everything you need to know about the main features of this release for workforce management, compensation and benefits. And whilst we'll try to cover as much as we can during this webinar, we'll not be able to cover every single feature, so we'll make an extended PowerPoint available to you at the end of the session that does cover more of the features. So by means of an agenda, over the next 50 minutes, we'd like to cover three main areas. Firstly, I'll talk a little bit about our approach to Oracle updates before handing over to Priya, who will analyse the latest release, providing an insight into the new available features, as well as highlighting things to consider when deploying them. This also covers known issues that need to be considered as well. So Priya will talk through these in around 35 to 40 minutes before I take you through our next generation managed services and how it can help you with these Oracle releases. We will leave some time at the end to cover questions, but please do ask any questions throughout the webinar in the chat option that you have, as we have a team of colleagues who will respond to each of those questions as we progress through the webinar. So when we talk about an update, there are generally four categories of events that we must consider prior to deployment. And firstly comes the analysis. We need to analyze and consider each of the options that are available to be rolled out and the impact they have on user experience and productivity. Secondly, we must analyze and plan how we deploy the updates that we've decided on as part of the analysis phase, whilst carrying out some sort of impact analysis on the business before deploying these updates. After planning comes everybody's favorite part of new releases, and that's the user acceptance testing to ensure that there are no fundamental impacts to the business once the features are deployed. This is the most intensive stage of this four-stage process and needs to be done methodically to ensure that there are no surprises. And then finally, it's about launching the release once you're happy the tests have uncovered no showstoppers or serious headaches. So once I hand over to Priya, her focus will be on supporting that first stage in this process, the analyze stage. And then later, I will talk a little bit about how we can potentially help you with the other three areas. So I just wanted to talk to you about the structure of the new feature slides that Priya will be using as she takes you through these updates. Some of you may already be familiar with this, but please use this as a reminder whilst I take those that are new to these webinars through the areas. So we include the feature name, a short description, and the business benefit, so you can see the impact it may have on your organization with the outcomes it could give you. We also then include a high-level impact analysis on the right with four main areas. So we include the impact level that helps to gauge the amount of testing required, whether or not the feature needs to be enabled, configured, and also whether it's a quick win, and that takes into account the level of effort and time required to get this feature set up. Okay, as we move closer to actually handing over to Priya, I just wanted to run a very quick poll, and some of you that have attended these webinars may already be familiar with this, but I wanted to just understand from those of you that have joined today, how you perceive Oracle's quarterly updates. So I'm just launching a poll now. So in front of you, you should see a poll window with two options. And I'd just ask you to vote now on whether you see these quarterly updates as an overhead or a value addition. So I'm just going to keep the poll open for about 10 to 15 seconds to give everyone an opportunity to answer. And thank you, everyone that's answered so far. I'll then share the results with you at the end. Okay, so I'm just going to close off the poll now, and I'm going to share the results with you. And actually, what's been quite consistent. So this is now the fourth session that we've run in these updates. Is that consistently many of our customers and non-Evosys customers that are using Oracle are finding that actually it provides a value add. But for those of you that find it as an unnecessary overhead, do stay tuned at the end, because there are some services that we could potentially offer you that may be beneficial to actually change your your view of these actual quarterly updates. Okay, so Priya, I'm sure everyone is eagerly waiting to hear from you so that they can understand what to expect in 20D for benefits, compensation, and workforce management. So can you tell us, please?
Sure. Thanks, Chris. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whichever part of the world you've logged in. So welcome to another HCM webinar series. And today we're going to talk about 4 modules, which is on workforce management, which includes absences and time and labor. And then we would also speak about compensation and benefits. So in total, if you see, there are around 27 quick win features, and we have 14, which we call them as REST. So on this webinar, we're going to talk about these 27 features, but I would strongly recommend that you go back and look at these 14 REST features, because those features does not mean that they are not a valuable feature, but just that means that you need to spend more time in order to have that feature enabled and put to use. So quickly moving on to features which are quick wins, by default enabled and requires no configuration. So the first one in this series is the integration with third-party calendars. So this is a wonderful feature, a beneficial feature for an employee. So if you already have, which most of the organizations would already have, approval set up for absences, the employee can now see a quick attachment which says add to calendar. So basically, this is an ICS file which could be downloaded and then could be integrated with any third-party calendar systems like Outlook or Google Calendar. So which means they can now easily interface their absence information to their regular calendars that they maintain. A very quick one and an enhancement to the employee. The next one is again a benefit for the users in terms of an update in an UI change. So there is a new search keyword by which you can actually go ahead and search your absences. So you already had the filters of last 12 months, or if you want to sort by type, but on the responsive page now you have a search bar where you can put the absence type or status of an absence and then search absences accordingly. So the benefit here is you quickly identify what records you want to see and you don't have to scroll over multiple absences. The next is an enhancement on local and global mass transfers. So this also includes individual transfers as well, so not necessarily only mass transfer. There were a lot of benefits and enhancements even in 20B, but then what we have in 20C, it includes an automatic way of copying plan balances and also the enrollments. So you can also copy plan balances. This is for accrual plans with the vesting period details, waiting period details, any rollovers, any disbursements options that you've already set. So the entire set of that enrollment and the plan balance details can just easily be transferred when you do a local or a global transfer. So this is more of an automation in place where you can reduce your manual work of end-dating the entitlement in the previous or the source record and then again assigning or giving them the plan again on the destination assignment. So all of us must be already aware that the override payment percentage has now been removed from the actions page, and you can only use absence certifications to actually override payment bands. So this is not a new feature, but then just a highlight to tell you that you should be using only absence certifications to actually have override payment percentages. So if you've not used absence certifications in the past, it would not be a quick win, but then it would be mandatory for you to enable those certifications now because you have no other way you can override the payment percentages. Okay, the next one, couple of more features that we would be discussing would be on the concept of multiple assignment security, which is an enhancement in 20D. So for those of you who have not attended the Global HR webinar, just to give you a little brief of what is this multiple assignment security is that from 20D, Oracle has come up with this control of security at assignment level. So if you have multiple assignment concepts in your organization and you want to control things based on assignments rather than person, you can do that now. And this is rolled out into various modules. So you can see the impact of the assignment security at talent modules, at absence, OTL. So various modules of HCM would be impacted with this security change. Again, this is an opt-in feature, so it's not mandatory, but then a wonderful feature for organizations where you have multiple assignments. So what does this basically do for us is that you can now control, let's say you have two managers on for one person for different assignments. So he has two assignments and he's got two different managers. You can now restrict what manager one sees. So he would be able to see only the assignment related to that, the one that he's actually supposed to look at, and manager two would also see only assignment two. So that level of security is there across all modules. So when we come to absences here, so the absences processing is also enhanced to address any changes that happens because of change in an employee's assignment. So for example, you ended, so there are multiple assignments and you ended one of the assignment. Then the evaluate process, if you just run that process, the entire balance details of that employee is maintained properly. And let's say you add a new assignment. So that assignments based on the eligibility criteria gets enrolled into a particular plan, and then if you run evaluate absences, the balances are maintained separately. So you can see individual balances against individual assignments. So the next one is again on multiple assignment enhancement, where there are overlap checks. So you have a concept of checking overlaps when you raise leave, and this is set up at the absence type level. So you want to have an overlap check or not, depends on what is your configuration. But then if you have overlaps enabled to be checked, this will now look for overlaps only within the same assignment. Okay, so let's say I have an absence for assignment 1 on 18th of August. If I try to raise another absence with any type, but if the overlap check is enabled, it would see if for the same assignment do I have the same duration which is overlapping. But if it is on a different assignment, you are allowed to raise the absence now. So in simple, overlap checks are restricted only for the same assignment. It is not cross assignment. The next one is a benefit again for multiple assignments, where you now have the support to do either donations or cash disbursements for any assignment. So until or previous to this release, you were allowed to do it only for the primary assignment. So if you have an enrollment belonging to a primary assignment, only then you can do a cash disbursement or a donation. But now it's not like that. You can choose what should be your assignment. So you can choose the business title, actually tells you what is the assignment, and then the corresponding plan would be shown. You can choose your disbursement amount, and the same goes with cash disbursements. So you can choose which assignment and then choose to do this activity. So that's a lot more control given to an employee. They can choose what they want to do here with the assignments that they have. This ability is also there for the managers. This is another feature, an enhancement for multiple assignment, which is on the balance transfer page. So now administrators can initiate balance transfer with multiple assignments from one plan to another plan for the same employee. So if you see now, the entire absence plan has got the title also against it. So it tells you this particular plan is now linked to which assignment. So based on that, if you want to transfer it from, let's say, senior applications developer to senior product manager for accrual hours, you can do that. Or here they've done. And you also see the additional information that this is being transferred. So you see this is a transfer. The target plan is this, and you also see what's the assignment. So this is a clear-cut, quick win, because organizations where you have multiple assignments, this becomes a need to be able to transfer within the assignments without a hassle of indating and recreating. The next is on the OTL front, where you have enhancement on person search. So this is on the resolve all exceptions page on the OTL module. So you now see that you have a person name. So you can choose a particular person. So this is enhanced, and you can easily resolve what is the error. And you have a similar search update at the create time card level. So not just with the name, the person number field is also added, through which you can actually easily search for a person. The next is a wonderful feature for organizations where you have shifts that spans midnight. So now what you can do is you can actually configure workday definitions. You can group people for whom the time entries actually span midnight, and then identify what should be their earned dates. So you can create a rule, and then when you process the time cards, it would automatically create, and it would get, the earned date would be, when you send it to payroll, the earned date would also be followed from whatever is the worker's workday definition. So it is a clear-cut win in terms that you keep your employees happy, because they are paid for the correct earned date, and there are no more questions on when I would get paid and what I would get paid. The next one is on the benefit front. So you can now review rates and also element entry details, because we have a view payroll info on the benefit service center. So if you see here, you can see all the information of the elements and the pay details, and if it was processed or not processed, any history behind that. So the benefit of this is that at a glance, the benefits administrator can actually explain the participant that this is your rate and this is how you were paid, and so you can easily answer their questions on whatever payment that they had. So previously this option was there, it was only available in classic pages. Now it's also there on the responsive view. The next is also a very nice feature in terms of consolidation. So basically the bargaining unit and the lab union member, which was a separate tab earlier, has been moved under labor relations. So you can quickly use the labor relations tab, excuse me, you can quickly use the labor relations tab to actually create eligibilities based on the bargaining units. So that's more a quick win in terms that you have a control and you can do all your activities in one place rather than navigating to different tabs. Okay, this is a a feature or an enhancement on the benefits health check diagnostic report. So this was a report that was already existing, and I assume most of you would be using it. So there are a couple of sections added in this report. So you can look at details of persons with incorrect beneficiary percentages, and then also persons who have contingent beneficiary but no primary beneficiary. And what's the benefit here is that first point to note is that these sections would have data only if the live event was on a started status. And then once you find data in this list, you can just download that into a DAT file and use the same DAT file with modifications for uploading back the correct percentages. So it helps you actually easily identify what's the problem and then also correct it because you are able to download the DAT file. This is on the compensation front, where you now have comments and attachment section introduced as part of salary history. So this is a feature where you want to have audit. So let's say you have audit coming up and you don't maintain approvals of salary changes on the system. So if that happens on an email or on a paperwork, you can now actually keep those records in one place. You can add comments, you can put attachments to prove why the salary was changed or what was the reason behind that change. So that helps you to consolidate all relevant information in one place, and the approver can now look at that information and then quickly take a decision if this is correct or not. So maybe if you are changing the salary because of a reorg, you can put that explanation there. Maybe put some documents which would help the approver to understand that this change is the right change to happen. Okay, this is a benefit in terms of real time. So earlier, when you run the start workforce compensation cycle, after you finish this, you had to run another process to actually keep your OTBI reports in line. But then what you can do from 20D is that you simply have a launch synchronized hierarchy process. So you click on this while you submit the start workforce. So the synchronization for the OTBI reports happens automatically. So if you have if you have reports that's created for compensation, workforce compensation plans, then this is a quick win for you. This is again on the workforce compensation, where you can supply vesting date for stock when you're transferring the data. So basically, when you do workforce compensation earlier, you never had this option to add what should be the vesting date. So that has to be maintained separately, and then a request had to be raised separately. But now, when you do update the plan and when you are actually transferring the stocks, you can immediately say this is the vesting date. So they don't have to wait and update the stock tables later. It can be done the moment they are transferring. This is a quick update here to avoid confusions. So on the work list, you clearly see that this is a workforce compensation link. So earlier it was called as access this task in work list. So to avoid that, it is being more specific to say that you would be accessing the workforce compensation when you click that. So a quick update on UI, but that would stop a lot of confusions. Okay. This is for customers who use worksheets in the workforce compensation plan. You can now show prorated assignment segments. So if you have proration data, you can clearly see what's the prorated segment details, and then these would be your refresh options. So you can say refresh the assignment segments data or reevaluate assignment segment eligibility. So you can just load these into the configure into the external data or configure this in the plan, and then the data could be used by managers very easily. So this avoids complexity behind what should be the prorated amount between the assignment segments, and so reduces a lot of bugs. This is for customers where you have grade step progression. I see most of our customers do use grade step progression, and this is a quick access here where you can see what's the status. So there are more details now in the search options, where you can see process ID, grade ladder group, or based on grade ladder, or the process name, and then you can quickly find out the information against that particular process on what is the status, how much was an error. So this part was already there, but then the enhancement is on the parameter options. Okay, total compensation monitor process. So for customers who have total compensation statements enabled and you generate the process, so it's now more easier to navigate from the total compensation statement process. You click on monitor process and logs, and it takes you to the schedule process page where you can quickly see the output or pull out the log of that particular process. So it's more for ease of access. So previously you would be able to see that only from the central process monitor, so it was a bit difficult. Now navigation is more easier and you can pull out the report of the output or the log quickly. This is a wonderful feature where you can start maintaining templates for printable statements of total compensation. So this would be a simple RTF file where you can, so if you want to have different templates for different section of people based on the needs, then you can just create different templates. So this is basically to streamline the process and ensure you have the right templates. So there is a predefined template, but if you want to create your own templates, so just can make an RTF change and use those templates to print the total compensation statements. So that brings us to the end of quick wins with no configurations. And these are quick wins which are default but has minor configurations. Okay, this one is on benefits where you can now see future dated contacts in the people to cover page. So earlier, until 20D, even if an employee adds a future dated contact, they won't be able to see that person here. And this was creating confusion that they would add multiple times thinking it never got saved. So to avoid confusion and hassle, what Oracle has done this time is that yes, you can see that you have added this person, but then there is also a banner which says this person might not be eligible for whatever benefits you're trying to cover until the relationship actually starts with the system. So a clear indication, clarity on process, that's the benefit here. Okay, this is a very good feature which was never there in the past, and I think most of our customers wanted to have that. Again, on benefits is that you can now go change the benefit start date by any chance. Let's say due to manual error you created it on an incorrect date, you can quickly go to actions and change the start date of the benefit. Earlier you had to do this only through a spreadsheet, so you have to run the spreadsheet, update the spreadsheet with the correct data and then put the rates. So that was a lot of hassle. Now it's just a click and you can change the effective start date. So we spoke about the assignment level security. So you have that assignment level security in salary and individual compensation page, meaning that now the managers can see only the data to the assignment that they are actually related to. So they won't see another assignment's data. So this is there at change salary, salary history, individual compensation, and various other pages of the compensation module. Again, a point to note, this would be there only if you enable assignment level security. So if you enable assignment level security, this is a quick win, but assignment level security itself is huge in size and so not a quick win. Process worker statements by manager hierarchy. Okay, this is one parameter added here which was not there before. So you can allow now, you can process the worker compensation statement by a manager hierarchy as well. So the benefit is that you can start releasing statements based on manager hierarchy if you have to do that. Okay, quickly moving on to opt-in features but quick wins. This is on multiple assignment enhancement where now you can enter absences for specific assignments. So this is a very wonderful feature, a very wanted feature where organizations have multiple assignments. They would want to enter absences specifically for that assignment. So if you allow in your organization to actually raise absences to a particular assignment pointed, and you should have configured your absence to be entered at assignment level. Then when you choose that particular absence type, for example, here you see qual pay, which is a qualification pay, for example, is the absence type, and that's enabled to show or to be entered at assignment level. So when you have that, you see a business title coming up where you can choose if you want to enter it on both the assignments or any particular assignment. And when you do that, you get these details again. So it's also on the basic mode. And when you click on edit entries also, now that if you click on edit entries, you don't have to remove the secondary assignment if you don't want to. So this was one hassle which most of our multiple assignment customers faced. So now you don't have to do all that. You can just choose the business title on the front page and then go ahead and click and make edit entries for longer duration of days, and it will still go for the same assignment that you chose before. This is a great feature in terms of audit. So here, what you can see right now is when you go to the salary creation or updation page, you can clearly see who created this, when was it created, or when was it updated, and by who. So this was something I think most customers wanted to see when there was a discrepancy in salary. But then we had to fill out reports and look at the who columns and bring all those information. It's now a lot more easier. Great. So that brings us to the end of quick wins. We do have the rest features, but as I said, we won't be covering them up now. So I would quickly go on to the OTBI enhancements we have for all the 4 modules, which is absence, OTL, benefits, and compensation. So on the benefits front, you have a new subject area, which is called benefits person information real time. So where you can report on benefit groups, balances, and probably even person habits. So you have a lot of information. So for example, if you want to identify, you have a plan where you have to ensure that the person does not use tobacco, or status of that person, so that you put them into the right benefit. You can now use this subject area to create your own reporting and then ensure that they are there and they have the right benefits also, so that your best benefits coverage is the best. The next one is on workforce compensation subject area. So you have compensation action history. So what does that mean is you can now report on any historical information on compensation action. So action code, comments made by the manager, and when did that action happen. All of this could be reported. You can also report on budget information. So if you are maintaining budgets for the compensation, you can also report on such information. Also on worksheet actions like work in progress or submitted or approved. So you have a wide variety of enhancement on the workforce compensation subject area. The next is on the worksheet audit details. So this is an audit report where you can ensure all the who columns on who made change and when do they make change. This is on the worksheet level. This is a great feature for organizations which are wide across the globe. So if you want to have a salary comparison between different geo regions, so you can now do that. So you can compare what's the salary that you're paying in, let's say, Netherlands, what's the salary that you're paying in, let's say, Australia, and are you balancing the pay? So this reporting would actually help for organizations, as I said, which are huge and are across various geographical locations. Attribute changes are there on stock details subject area. So certain folders are renamed. So in case if you have certain reports already developed in the subject area, please ensure that your reports are working fine after the upgrade. Ensure if you have certain bursting done out of that OTBI, if you have OTBI agents, please ensure that all of them are working fine, because there is a rename there. So that brings us to the end of the new features. Let's quickly look at known issues. As such, the known issues, most of them were repetitive. So what we saw in 20C is getting carried over here in 20D as well. For example, this one is a continuation. Let's talk about this, which is a new known issue in 20D, is that the plan balances REST services can't be used. So if you want to retrieve balance summary and detail, you can't use the absence plan balance REST service. So REST services are basically used when you're integrating with third-party systems. So if you don't have all those interfaces, you don't have to worry about this. But if you do have, currently there is no workaround for this, and we might, it's just that you cannot use this to get that information. So you might have to look at other options. This is also a new one on 20D, is that the time and labor manager can only view direct reports on responsive view time cards. So on the earlier pages, you were able to see indirect people as well, but now it doesn't go with whatever is the data security of the manager, but rather it only goes by what is the line manager hierarchy. So basically, time and labor manager need not be necessarily the line manager. You might have an administrator and a manager. So, but now on the responsive view time card, they're only able to see their direct reportees. So this is Oracle says it's going to be fixed in later releases, and as such, we don't have a workaround here. So this is a word for caution for people who are on time and labor responsive page. Okay, this is yet another problem on the responsive UI for time cards, where individuals can actually go ahead and enter their time cards, or sorry, view their time cards, regardless of what we mentioned at the configuration level. So if you had mentioned that they're not supposed to see time cards which are 6 days before, or let's say 30 days after, these parameters are not working. They were working on the classic pages, but it's not working on the responsive UI, and Oracle says it would be fixed for the future to actually, but we don't have a workaround now. So the rest of the features are more repetitive from 20C. So I assume most of us would have already seen this feature problem, and it's still not fixed. So on the replaced or removed features, it's just that you cannot use classic anymore. You have to move to a responsive UI. That's the one. And earlier you had the ability to switch between old version and new version of plan configuration export import. That has now been removed from this 20D. You cannot go back to the old version. You should always use only the improved export and import plan configuration feature. And that brings to an end of what I had to give you on this webinar. Handing it over to Chris later.
Thank you so much, Priya, for your analysis on the features. Lots to think about, and I'm sure that there's going to be things in this release that each of our guests today will look to deploy and benefit from. So I'm just going to sort of click through. Okay. So earlier we spoke about the 4-step cycle to handling a release. And we've just spent some time looking at and analysing those features that we're expecting now in benefits compensation and workforce management. But once you finalise your analysis after today, you'll no doubt start planning and the rollout with your teams, and you'll commence testing. If you're already an Evosys customer and you want us to be involved in these phases, please do reach out to your project manager. And for non-Evosys customers that have joined us today, wanting to know a bit more about how we can help in these phases, please do get in touch with us and we can talk you through our services. One of the most exciting areas for us is the use of a technology that can save up to 70% of your testing time. And as I mentioned earlier, we all know the overhead that UAT creates across a business. But this solution that we use runs all the defined processes and captures screenshots as it progresses. And then it marks a process as either being success or failure. So we can then focus on those failed processes while reviewing and resolving any config issues, or, if necessary, alerting Oracle to any software-related issues that need to be fixed. And the great thing about this is that it's not just about the time saved, it's also about the speed in which the tests are done, giving us more elapsed time in that testing phase to make sure that you're ready. The other thing to consider is that we can work with you to give you an impact analysis specific to your organisation. Whilst Priya took you through, the features and the potential impacts, these impacts will absolutely vary from organisation to organisation. So we can actually work with you to understand a bit more about how it impacts your organisation. Okay, so our services go beyond supporting quarterly updates, and I'm actually really excited to tell you a little bit about the Evosys Next Generation Managed Service and what it can do to help you. We're passionate about driving business value from the Oracle Cloud, and that's why our managed services doesn't focus on just keeping the lights on for our customers. It focuses on what can be done to continually improve the outcomes of using Oracle Cloud applications. We very much see our managed services as a partnership to work with you to enhance your Oracle Cloud experience and not just keep the lights on, as I mentioned earlier. And we ultimately want you to get the business value out of this relationship. So our managed services has a number of options to give you that flexibility on the services that we can include for you as part of those managed services. Overarching and complementing our managed services is our value-based analytics, or VBA for short. These are used to measure and monitor business-defined KPIs that focus the attention and continuous improvement. And there are many areas where the value-based analytics can be used. And if I just zoom in now to actually discuss those, we've got 140 pre-built KPIs with 340 analytics that can monitor ROI, and it very much allows you to change that mindset when thinking about Oracle Cloud. You begin to look at proactiveness, business value, carry out changes based on fact. And the VBAs themselves span across the system in 4 main areas. So you have process optimization, you have system adoption, information output, and audit and compliance. And each of those areas obviously have their real benefits to actually glean that data out of the system. So our next generation managed service is also about empowerment and helping you to drive a lot more self-sufficiency. So some of this is also about leveraging the technology value adds that we use as part of the wider service. And this includes the use of responsive digital assistants, for example, to help with self-sufficiency, as well as robotic process automation, or RPA for short, to remove those repetitive manual tasks that people in your organization no doubt are doing. This opens up the ability for a more focused work on innovation and continuous improvement. And actually, for me, collaboration plays an important part in innovating. So we continually work with you or together with our customers to drive those innovations. And lastly, it encourages KPI-driven support. So traditional managed services would monitor ticket numbers and length of time taken to close those tickets based on severities. We don't focus on this. Obviously, we understand that tickets need to be closed in set times, but that's not our focus. Our focus is driving KPI-driven processes. Okay, so it's about giving customers a good outcome, which ultimately means reducing the number of tickets that are raised. So we work on not only resolving those tickets, but also ensuring that root cause is investigated and resolved to stop further instances from happening. And it then allows us to spend more time to work on other areas that I mentioned earlier. So our approach is also about ensuring that we maintain the service level commitment that we set out at the start with the customer, and continuing to provide greater value through agreeing on and delivering better outcomes. So this kind of gets us towards the end of our webinar now. So just a few closing notes from me before we move on to questions. So what happens next? We're going to make the presentation and all the relevant information available to you today. That will include this session recording, so you'll be able to replay this again if you want to hear a bit more about what I had to say about some of the services, as well as Priya on all the features. And we'll also include some test scripts for you to use as part of your user acceptance testing. We'll also provide you with a feedback form as part of that kit, and it's a personal ask really, but it'll be really useful if you could provide us with some feedback, because obviously we want to keep these sessions relevant for you and informative. So anything that you can feedback, whether it's good or bad, please do keep that dialogue open with feedback. Please do speak to your project manager if you're an Evosys customer about understanding the services that we can offer you around these quarterly updates, or even if you want to talk to us further about our next generation managed services. If you're not an Evosys customer, you can still ask about those services, and we'll be delighted to talk to you about those as well as the managed service. And please do reach out to us on the email address that you can see on your screen now. And also, please consider the remaining sessions. So we're just completing our 4th session now. So we still have a session, in fact, straight after this one on supply chain management, and then we're going to finish up this week with 2 payroll sessions, one specific to UK and one to US payroll. So if you have colleagues in those areas that you may find they'll get benefit from attending those sessions and they're not already registered, please do ask them to visit our website and register for those sessions. Okay, so we now move to a Q&A session. I can see we have an outstanding question to ask here. So, I think actually we've already answered this, but just for the benefit of everyone, Priya. So I think this is specific to one of the areas that you were talking about. So the question was, does this only allow you to raise an absence per assignment?
Yeah, with the new updates, yes, you can raise an absence pertaining to a single assignment as well if you have multiple assignments also, provided your absence type is configured in that way. So you might have to modify a bit on the configuration side of absences, but yes, you can do that.
Perfect. So are there any other questions from our guests?
Or maybe we can ask the guests to raise their hand in case if they want to unmute, if they want us to unmute them and ask a question.
Looks like there's no other questions. So hopefully you've all found it an informative session. Thank you very much for indeed for attending, and we look forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you very much.